Good morning, everybody. This is the World Sailplane Grand Prix final in Cerdanya, the first race day, on Sunday, 2nd of June. The qualifying series that's brought all the pilot series over, and now we're looking for the world champion of the World Sailplane Grand Prix. We have great weather conditions here in Cerdanya, but it's likely to become a little bit more unsettled and stormy later. So we're looking to make a race today out to the west, 250 kilometers, and we shall be starting the race about 1:30 local time today. And we hope you enjoy following the race on sgp.aero. We have live commentary and live coverage of the race all afternoon.
How are you today?
I'm good, very good.
So what will be your strategy for today?
Well, strategy today, to win the day maybe. That would be a good strategy, but no, I think just to go and have a nice flight, try and find a good rhythm to the flight, and hopefully the last 2 days have shown I've been flying quite well, and if that continues then I should be well placed, I think.
You're flying a lot in the Alps. What
Yes.
is different, the Pyrenees?
They're slightly different. The Pyrenees are a little bit more rounded, and you don't have so much valley breeze, so they're a little bit less reliable. So you have to find thermals rather than relying on the fact that you can use the slope route, the slope lift.
Good, so we wish you good luck for today. Enjoy.
The story of today's race is very interesting. Before the start, it was a little bit difficult to get altitude, as we saw here, where Evgeny was struggling, but very quickly he got up and okay for starting. We can see the race was first of all to the east, to the Pushmal on the east end of Cerdanya Valley, and then we go way off to the west of Sort, past Montseny, to the south, and then back again to the east. The first leg after the start, which was a good start, we saw very quickly the whole of the competition splitting into two groups. It's unusual to see them split so early on the race. And we can see the group with Sebastian and another group there with Thomas. Approaching the first turning point, there was very good sky and very good conditions as they ran into the turning point. We can see that John Gatfield decided not to climb, and he went off on his own to the right, which turned out to be a big mistake for John, followed by Mike Young and Sebastian, who both went that way. And from this turning point, they went to the north towards Carlit, where it was obvious there was good cumulus, and they could pick this cumulus to take the track to the west. Evgeny caught up a little bit here, and we're very pleased to see he was back in the race. There was one person who didn't go this way. It was Thilo. He went a completely different way to the east, but they came together, and as we can see at this part of the race, all the gliders are coming back together again. They're beginning to bunch up again, and Thilo's coming on the south face of the Maranges Valley here, and now there's a choice of route. There's one group with Maximilian and Adam and Peter Krajcek who will take a more northern route, getting really quite high, above 3,000 meters, and the group with Mike and Peter Temple and Thilo who've chosen to take a southern route. They will run a lower route heading on to the next turning point. You see clearly here that it's split into quite a big separation between the competitors, with Max and Louis going well off to the north and Thomas there quite high, flying in excellent conditions under good cumulus. Each little group choosing its own way. But inevitably they came back together again. One good climb just to the south of Solaria Mountain before crossing the Sword Valley saw everybody back in the thermal, which took them up to nearly 4,000 meters. And we can see Louis is at the top of this with Thomas, and they will lead out from this thermal into the second turning point. Louis in front with Sebastian not far behind, and they're still cruising at 2,800, 2,900 meters, and fairly easy now to run into the next turn. The next turn is critical, and we saw that Louis made a mistake here. He went a long way into the turn, and he went a lot further than he needed, and he lost his lead and had to come back in underneath the others. A quick climb with two sets of thermals here on the face just to the southwest of the turning point, and everybody came together again to cruise down to the Beaumont because it was a long glide downhill into this turning point. But now the fun really started. After this turn, there was a little confusion as to the climb, and one group got the climb much better. And we can see Sebastian didn't get this climb initially, and he was lower than the others, and he chose to go a completely different direction. And we can see Thilo and Mike and Jintas all heading off back up to the north onto the slopes north of Cerdanya Valley. And Sebastian went a completely different way. I think he was probably feeling that the only way to win the day was to find another route. The group that went off to La Rabassa, they climbed up to 2,800 meters, which is more than enough altitude for final glide. But they were very conservative. They were playing cat and mouse here. Sebastian found a climb, but it wasn't really very good, and he chose to move on from the climb. Top of the climb, and Thilo led the way. The very conservative final glide today, they had plenty of spare altitude and good energy, all the way into the control point at the solar panel factory. And we see Thilo's coming out well ahead. Jintas is directly behind, guaranteed now for first and second place unless they make a penalty. And the last group are coming in. But there's a really big fight now for the next points, second, third and fourth place. Any of these group of competitors could come in with the points. The turning point's critical. And we can see that Mike and Christoph take the turning point together. Didier's with them and Lucas is with them, but unfortunately Lucas just misses the turn. And we can see here his mistake is a really costly one. He has to reverse his turn and go back into the zone to be sure that he gets his data point in that turn. And now it's a race between just the four. Sebastian must have felt a lot of pain, because the first gliders, the first sailplanes coming back were cruising overhead as he was really struggling now. His last two climbs hadn't worked. He'd pushed on up the valley, he'd got lower, and he had the awful business of watching them go overhead. The finish was Thilo finishing first, followed by Jintas, and then quite a close race for third, fourth and fifth place. And we can see Mike was just 400 meters in front of Christoph, who were leading Didier in by about another 300 meters.
You did a brilliant race. Tell us everything about it.
Well, I wanted to get out of the 0-point club, so I made it today. Well, the flight was, the beginning was not very good. I didn't catch a good thermal, and but then, so I turned very low, one of the lowest, and I didn't cross the valley. I stayed on the south side, and I found a very good lifting line. And at the end, I was able to catch up with the others on the northern side. And then it was a good run. Great conditions, fantastic. We had 3-4 meters, wonderful, and then very high 3,400, 3,500 meter cloud base. And then the whole pack stayed a little bit to the north, and I made it directly to the Beaumont mountain, the second last turn point, and the ridge worked fairly good. So and for some reason the others didn't turn immediately at the 2-kilometer radius. They made a longer turn. I said, what are they doing? And there was good lift, so probably they tried to find it. But coming back, I found very good lift, which almost which brought me together with the others. And then it was a good race. At the end, from the last turn point, from the last westerly turn point, there was a big convergence line you could see and at the mountains, and I was pushing, not slower than 180, always 200, and finally it worked with more than 4 meters, and I made just about final glide altitude, but then I said, oh, maybe I made a mistake because it started raining. And so I was not able to make more safety altitude, but at the end it worked out and I'm very happy.
Yes, congratulations, was amazing. Very was amazing to follow you.
Yeah.
And congratulations
Yeah, it's
again.
wonderful flying here. So what a great area. Yeah.
First position with amazing race, Tilo Hollyhouse with 100%. Okay, like this. Ale, you have to move the camera. Ale.
We better drink it, huh?